25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of.
A well-known Texas lawyer announced to a crowd of reporters on Tuesday that his law firm plans to pursue legal action against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs on behalf of more than 100 victims. More than 24 of those future plaintiffs say they were just kids when Combs allegedly assaulted them.
Imagine if you were the CIA, you're like, okay, we're looking for people who have gone through these things in their life that have curated this kind of like personality type.
Well, isn't it just like part of the gig? Like here's a for instance, like your bit about Puffy.
Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs just went off on a judge in a shocking courtroom outburst after facing an unexpected life sentence in prison. Frustration boiled over as Diddy made it clear that he doesn't want to remain behind bars, especially with the harsh conditions he's been forced to endure. Diddy's legal team is pushing back, arguing that the poor conditions of his jail cell, crowded, unsanitary, and cold, are unbearable and inhumane. The star's battles isn't just against the sentence, but against a system he says is breaking him down. But what does this mean for the future of the hip-hop icon? Will his words make a difference in court, or is he destined to spend the rest of his life behind bars? Stay tuned for the full breakdown. But of course, before we go any further, make sure that you first subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more updates and videos like this. Let's dive right in.
Call them the facilitators of foul play, willing participants in vile conduct. As we identify them, each will be part of this case as defendants. These defendants will not only include individuals.
DJs aren't supposed to pass out, but when they come to one of my parties, this is what happens to them. I put him to sleep.
Next day, right?
You put the drink on his head.
There you go. There it is.
You've gone on the record saying that your white party is up there with the top 3 that you've ever thrown for people. What are the other 2?
I would say when I got my star on Hollywood, I had a party. And this year at Burning Man at an undisclosed location.
Sean Diddy Combs is currently in jail after being hit with a serious federal charge for exploitation and racketeering. His future is up in the air as there are still questions about his detainment and how soon his trial might happen. Combs was arrested last week and is facing accusations of various crimes like physical attacks, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, and bribery. If found guilty on all counts, he could be looking at a life sentence. A judge, Andrew L. Carter, denied Combs' bail, saying he's a flight risk and could try to influence witnesses. Combs' lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, mentioned plans to appeal that decision but hasn't done so yet, and it's not an easy process. For now, it seems like Combs will stay in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a federal prison that's been criticized for being unsafe and dysfunctional. Back in July, a U.S. congressman from New York pushed for an investigation, mentioning issues like constant understaffing, frequent use of solitary confinement, and high levels of physical harm. Just last month, a federal judge also called the conditions there dangerous and barbaric.
Diddy Combs has been denied bail in connection with the charges he faces. And as Les Trent reports, the music mogul who once traveled by private jet to all those mansions is now in a jail that is notorious for its bad living conditions.
Diddy, Puffy, whatever you want to call him, is in big trouble with the feds. He's in the fight of his life. The charges he faces and the allegations are disturbing. The racketeering conspiracy charge he faces carries a maximum sentence of life in prison.
Combs' lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, has described the MDC as horrific and not suitable for someone waiting for trial. At last week's bail hearing, he mentioned wanting to have Combs move to a different facility, but the judge, Andrew L. Carter, said that wasn't his decision to make. And on Monday, Agnifilo decided not to officially request a transfer in his court filing. How long Combs will stay at MDC depends on when his trial begins, and that's not as easy to predict as it might seem. In the U.S., people accused of crimes have the right to a speedy trial, which means a jury trial should start within 70 days in federal cases. However, defendants often give up this right so their lawyers can have more time to prepare, since the prosecution usually has a head start. But last week, Combs' lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, chose not to do that. He said, "I'm going to do everything I can to move this case as quickly as possible."
Dissemination of video recordings, false imprisonment, minors.
Agnifilo explained at a press conference on Wednesday that he's trying to shorten the time Combs has to spend in what he calls very, very difficult and inhumane conditions. Pushing for a speedy trial suggests that Diddy's legal team thinks it's better to make the prosecution present their case quickly, rather than spending a lot of time preparing or filing pre-trial motions. This strategy could limit the government's time to find more witnesses or go through large amounts of digital evidence. Agnifilo stated, "They're going to have to accommodate me and him and give us a quick trial, and I'm going to be pushing for that." However, it's likely that the prosecutors will try to slow things down. According to the speedy trial rule, a judge can pause the 70-day countdown for various reasons. In fact, Judge Carter has already decided to exclude several weeks of time, starting from the September 18th bail hearing until the next hearing in October, saying it's in the interest of justice. The next court date, which is a status conference, is set for October 9.
I have never read 14 pages that contained so much shocking information and allegations. Diddy, among other things, he has been accused of engaging in a conspiracy to foster prostitution, racketeering, kidnapping, narcotics offenses, arson, bribery. That is the beginning.
Another reason for delays could be if the prosecutors file what's called a superseding indictment, which is an updated version of the case. This could mean adding new charges based on new evidence or testimony, or even adding more defendants to the case. This wouldn't be surprising, considering the case often mentions unnamed co-conspirators who may have been involved in the alleged criminal activities with Diddy. At a press conference announcing the changes, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams suggested that could be exactly what prosecutors are planning. "I can't take anything off the table," Williams said. "Anything is possible. Our investigation is very active and ongoing." Diddy fears for his life in prison amid alleged links to Tupac Shakur's assassination. There are concerns that Diddy could be in danger while in prison, with some insiders saying that gang members might target him as a trophy, linking him to the assassination of Tupac Shakur. Reports suggest that Diddy is very anxious about staying in jail and is afraid for his life. He supposedly believes the West Coast gang members who went to avenge Tupac's 1996 assassination see him as a target.
They're going to keep him outside of the general population to monitor his psychological health, as well as to protect him, because he's such a high-profile figure that he would be a target of violence.
One insider told Radar Online that in prison, if a gang or group doesn't like you, there are always people who will go out of their way to harm you. No one is ever fully safe or isolated. In one of the lawsuits against him, Diddy was even compared to Jeffrey Epstein, another powerful figure who fell from grace. There are fears that if Diddy ends up in federal prison controlled by gangs, he could be in serious danger. An insider shared that gangs have a lot of influence, even in highly secure prisons, and if someone wanted to get rid of Diddy, it might be possible with help from guards, similar to what was said about Jeffrey Epstein. Diddy could be at risk because of his alleged connection to Tupac's demise, even though he's called the accusations pure fiction. Prosecutors are reportedly working with federal investigators to look into his possible link to the unresolved case.
Freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
According to a source, the longer Diddy stays in jail, the more dangerous things could get for him. A prison expert explained that gang members would see taking him out as a huge win, especially if he had any involvement in Tupac's shooting. Mark Epstein's attorney also pointed out that detention centers run by the Bureau of Prisons are a big issue for the justice system. She said, "Anyone could be at risk in the current state of our detention system. It's a concern for the courts, the government, the defense, and especially for the individuals who are locked up."
You think it's over?
I think it's over for him as like a figure in entertainment.
Right. But do you think it's over as him as far as
jail?
like he gets a cell right next to R. Kelly?
I don't think so. I don't think
Really?
he gets locked
I think he
up.
skates.
Diddy compared to Jeffrey Epstein. After Diddy's alleged crimes came to light, people have started comparing him to billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, who passed away under mysterious circumstances in jail while waiting for his trial in 2019. Sources say that, like Epstein, Diddy also installed spy cameras in his home. This has reportedly made some of his celebrity friends like Justin Bieber, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Kevin Hart worried about what might come to light.
Epstein shit is going down and Ghislaine's in jail and you have information, there's people on both sides, right? There's the people on the right that are trying to nail the people that are on the left with this. There's people that are journalists that are trying to nail the people that were involved in this.
This is it,
And they've
In an ironic twist, Diddy is being held in the same Brooklyn detention center where Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, was locked up. Maxwell has already claimed her life was threatened by both inmates and guards during her time there. Now, Diddy finds himself in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn as well. An 11th lawsuit comes for Diddy as he sits in jail. The 11th and latest accuser to come forward, Thalia Graves, claims Combs and his bodyguards deed, bound, and forced themselves on her in 2001 and filmed the incident. Yet the Harlem-born rapper has denied criminal wrongdoing. Who are Diddy's accusers so far? Combs' former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, was the first to come forward with serious allegations against him. In a lawsuit filed last November, the model and singer claimed that Combs had kept her in a cycle of A, V, and S trafficking for more than a decade. Combs strongly denied these accusations. However, just one day after the lawsuit was filed, both sides announced that they had settled the case amicably, though Combs' lawyer emphasized that the settlement was not an admission of guilt.
That lawsuit set off an avalanche of litigation with multiple people, both men and women, coming forward with their own complaints about Combs' conduct.
In May, CNN got a hold of surveillance footage showing Combs physically maltreating Cassie during a 2016 indictment, which was mentioned in her lawsuit. 2 days later, Combs addressed the footage in an Instagram video, admitting that he was disgusted by his behavior. Joy Dickerson-Neal, inspired by Cassie Ventura's decision to speak out, claimed that Combs intentionally deed and forced himself on her when she was a student at Syracuse University in 1991. She was also said that he filmed the essay and shared the footage with others, making her a victim of revenge porn. Combs' representatives have called the lawsuit nothing but a money grab and are asking for it to be dismissed. Liza Gardner accused Combs and R&B crooner Aaron Hall of tampering with her drinks and then forcing her to have eye with them against her will when she was 16 years old. She also claimed that Combs had visited her home the next day and choked her until she passed out. Combs' attorney slammed the claims as bogus.
First met Diddy and says that she witnessed him verbally abuse her friend. Following Cassie's settlement with Diddy, Red penned an open letter in Rolling Stone about her experience. She spoke to me about the events that she says traumatized her.
I don't think people understand what it's like to be traumatized by somebody famous and rich, because you can't get away from them. To the corner, and he was like cussing her out with his hand in her face.
Later that night, Red, who was staying at Cassie's home, says she awoke to screaming.
He's standing in the living room area, and she's there, and he was like, emotional singing, there you are. And I just was like, oh, he's talking to me.
The 3 initial lawsuits were brought under New York State Adult Survivors Act, which granted adult victims a 1-year window to bring claims against their perpetrators, regardless of the statute of limitations. A woman so far identified only as Jane Doe claimed that Combs, former Bad Boy Records president Harvey Pierre, and a third person had aggressively GR'd her in a New York City studio when she was a 17-year-old high school student. A few days later, Combs finally spoke out on social media, calling the accusations sickening and claiming that they were made by people just trying to get easy money. His lawyers are working to have the case thrown out, calling it baseless and past the statute of limitations. Harvey Pierre, named in one of the suits, called the claims a tale of fiction. Rodney Lil Rod Jones, a producer who worked on Combs' latest album, accused him of running an illegal racketeering operation. He claimed he was forced to get illegal substances, hire adult workers, and film intimate acts. He also said that both Combs and actor Cuba Gooding Jr. groped him without his consent. Grace O'Marcaigh, who worked on a yacht rented by the Combs' family in 2022, accused Combs and his son, Christian King Combs, of SA. She said they created an environment of debauchery with adult workers and celebrities on board. Crystal McKinney alleged that Combs D'd and SA'd her after a men's fashion week event in 2003 when she was 22. She also claimed that after the incident, he blackballed her in the modeling industry. April Lamprose, whom says she met Combs while attending New York's Fashion Institute of Technology in 1994, described 4 terrifying intimate encounters with him throughout the early 2000s. Adria English, a former adult film actress who worked with Combs in the 2000s, accused him of using her as a S-pawn for the pleasure of and financial gain of others during his famous white parties held at his home in New York and Miami. Dawn Richards, a former member of two music groups put together by Combs, including Danity Kane, said she personally witnessed him being aggressive toward Cassie Ventura. She also said Combs threatened her life when she tried to step in. Thalia Graves, represented by celebrity lawyer Gloria Allred, alleged that Combs and his bodyguard, Joseph Sherman, intoxicated, restrained, and forced themselves on her while recording the essay, later distributing the video. Combs' representatives have denied the accusations from all 6 of those recent accusers.
In her lawsuit, Thalia, through her attorneys, sues Sean Diddy Combs, also known as the defendant, and another individual and other entities. The complaint alleges in part in the first cause of action that defendant Combs and another defendant committed a, quote, violation of New York City Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act by viciously and violently forcing sexual contact, oral sex, and sexual intercourse on the plaintiff, end quote.
Ex-inmates revealed Diddy's pure hell experience in a horrible jail. Sean Diddy Combs started 2023 in style, celebrating New Year's Eve with his then-girlfriend Young Miami and celebrity friends aboard a luxurious 278-foot super yacht worth $117 million, cruising the waters of St. Bart's. At midnight, the hip-hop mogul popped bottles of Ace of Spades champagne on the deck of the yacht, which boasted a helipad, a baby grand piano, a jacuzzi, and a wine cellar. Fast forward 20 months, and Diddy himself finds himself in a much different situation. After being arrested on September 16 and charged with exploitation and racketeering, he now sits in a small bare cell at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. He was denied all charges and pleaded not guilty. His lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, has raised concerns about Diddy's safety in the dangerous jail. The food is inedible from what I've been told, Agnifilo said after Diddy was denied bail, adding, "It's awful. Someone like Mr. Combs could be a target. We can't let that happen." Although we don't have the exact details about Diddy's current conditions at MDC, several former inmates have shared their experience painting a grim picture. They say the rapper's new life behind bars is a far cry from the luxury he enjoyed at his $35 million, 8,000 square foot Miami mansion, where he had private security and was surrounded by family and friends. Diddy, 54, is a father to Quincy, 33, Justin, 30, Christian, 26, Chance, 18, twins Delilah and Jesse, 17, and Love, 22 months. One former inmate who spent 3 months at MDC in 2019 called it a terrible, horrible place, describing the lack of air movement and poor quality food. Despite his estimated $600 million net worth, Diddy could now face regular strip searches, limited access to showers, and minimal contact with his loved ones, all while dealing with the constant threat of physical harm. Prison consultant Sam Mangle didn't mince words, calling parts of MDC pure hell, and labeling it as probably the worst federal detention center in the country. Close quarters. At first, Diddy was placed on watch for the possibility of him taking his own life. A former inmate told Us Weekly that prisoners under this watch are monitored constantly, with bright fluorescent lights and cameras on 24/7. Every time you leave your cell, you're strip searched, the inmate shared. Those considered a danger to themselves are given rubber shoes, special utensils for eating, and even basic hygiene items like toothbrushes need approval. According to the source, Diddy has since been taken off the watch and moved to protective custody. He is now in the same unit as cryptocurrency fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried. Convicted venereal offenders like R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and NXIVM cult leader Keith Raniere have also spent time at MDC. This unit is for people who either ask for or need protective custody, said the source. It's typically housing offenders and other high-profile individuals. There are around 30 inmates on the floor, each in a single-man cell that's smaller than the regular units. The source added that the area includes a recreation deck that's about 500 square feet. Stark contrast. Life behind bars is a far cry from the lifestyle Diddy used to show off on social media, where he had a personal chef, assistants, and staff take care of his every need. Now he has to stick to a strict routine for meals and showers, which are only allowed every other day, and laundry. The 1,217 inmates at NBC have to wake up at 6 a.m. sharp. According to some sources, the food isn't great either. One former inmate described the meals as chili, shredded chicken with rice, and M-burgers on Wednesdays, a patty as tough as shoe leather. A typical day menu includes oatmeal and bran flakes for breakfast, a chicken patty sandwich for lunch, and Salisbury steak for dinner. After some time, inmates can buy extras from the commissary, like tuna packets for $3.45, condiments, and chocolate bars. Everyone tries to get extra food from the commissary, says attorney Bill Baroni, who spent 3 months in prison and now helps others navigate the system. But in the beginning, you won't have access to that. According to a source, Diddy can make phone calls up to 300 minutes a month and has some limited access to email. Former MDC inmate Blair G., who was there in 2016, explained that email costs about 5 cents a minute and is strictly monitored, with only text messages allowed. You can't receive images or anything like that, Blair G. added. Visiting hours are also limited, and all visitors have to go through background checks. As for clothing, the Sean John founder, known for wearing high-end brands like Alexander McQueen and Gucci, have been given 2 prison uniforms, 3 pairs of socks, and used undergarments. According to Blair G., regular strip searches are also part of life there. A second former inmate who was at MDC in the early 2000s described the strip search process as uncomfortable. You have to take off all your clothes, the guards check your mouth, then tell you to turn around, bend over, spread your butt, cough, turn back around, lift your genitals, and squat. Living in fear, MDC is known for being a dangerous place. In 2020, an inmate named Jamel Floyd passed away after being pepper sprayed by correction officers, and in July, Edwin Cordero passed away in a harsh fight. Cordero's lawyers described the jail as overcrowded, understaffed, and neglected, calling it hell on earth in an interview with the New York Times. His widow, Ashley, told Us Weekly that the prison is filthy with rats running around and said no one should have to live like that. She advised Diddy not to trust anyone, adding, "That place is obviously not safe." One former inmate said Diddy might be able to win over guards and other prisoners. If guards like him, he could get extra food or more time out of his cell, Blair G. added. He's rich, so they might treat him better, almost like a form of extortion. However, another former inmate pointed out that Diddy's fame might not mean much behind bars. On the outside, you're a 10, but in prison, you're automatically a 5. It's a completely different world. Prison consultant Sam Mangle also noted that Diddy's charges could make things worse for him. I wouldn't be surprised if other inmates are yelling and threatening him. Easy target. Diddy's alleged crimes could make him a target among other inmates, as prison consultant Sam Mangle tells Us Weekly that venereal offenders are often specifically targeted. According to a 14-page indictment unsealed on September 17, prosecutors allege that Diddy A threatened and coerced women and others around him, describing a persistent and pervasive pattern of A that was sometimes verbal, emotional, physical, and S. He's accused of organizing events called freak-offs, where he would lure women into taking part in elaborate, intimate performances, often held in hotel rooms. During these events, Diddy allegedly supplied illegal substances and used force, threats, and coercion to make the women engage in lengthy, intimate acts with male adult workers, which he would then record on video. Diddy's arrest came after a wave of civil lawsuits accusing him of SA and physical harm, with the 11th lawsuit filed on September 23rd. His ex, Cassie Ventura, was the first one to file a suit last November, claiming he had maltreated her and forced her into intimate acts with male adult workers. An insider shared that Ventura, now married to Alex Fine and raising 2 young children, is relieved that Diddy's in jail. With more stories coming out about him, she feels validated, the insider says. She knows that there's a lot more that could come to light, and it's very dark and scary. She finally likes that she can close that chapter of her life. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all the charges and denies the accusations against him. A spokesperson for him said, "Mr. Combs is staying strong, healthy, and focused on his defense with full support from his family, legal team, and the truth. He hasn't had the chance to defend himself yet, and no criminal or civil claims have been proven in court. Mr. Combs remains innocent until proven guilty. He won't be distracted by conspiracy theories or exaggerated stories about his life." As for the legendary parties he hosted, they were highly sought after by some of the world's most famous people. Any attempts to twist what happened at those events are pure fiction, likely from people who weren't invited or trying to stay relevant by making things up. What's ahead? If convicted, Diddy could face anywhere from 15 years to life in prison. The sentence he might get depends a lot on whether he takes a plea deal or goes to trial, explains Jennifer Bidell, a former assistant U.S. attorney. The next big decision for Diddy and his legal team is whether to accept a plea or fight the charges in court. In a September 17 interview with CNN, Diddy's lawyer Mark Agnafilo said they plan to go to trial. "I believe he's innocent and he will go to a trial, and I believe he'll win." Bidell estimates that a trial could be 6 months to a year away. Diddy's next court date is set for October 9. In the meantime, attorney Bill Baroni says Diddy is probably struggling to adjust to his new reality. "He's facing the toughest time in the toughest place. His life will never be the same," he said. But what's your take on all this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos like this.